Hello, everybody. My name is Phebe Wahl, and I'm SVP of Editorial at Modern Luxury. We have a portfolio of over 85 titles across the country, including our portfolio of Modern Luxury Interiors magazines. And I first of all want to thank ADAC for hosting this webinar, as well as our panelists and our sponsor, Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio. So please join me for a moment as we watch a brief video from our sponsor. Lots of beautiful inspiration there. We're obviously here today to talk all things kitchens, and I want to introduce our panelists first. First, we have Marie Flanigan, principal at Marie Flanigan Interiors. Marie Flanigan of Marie Flanigan Interiors calls Houston home, but her work has appeared all over the country. As a classically trained and practiced architect, Marie unlocks a unique level of depth through her mutual consideration of interiors and structure. Her trademark style is evident through the sophisticated use of color, texture, and light, and every home she designs receives her personal signature of timeless elegance and innovative simplicity. Her distinguished designs can be seen in luxury homes and commercial spaces throughout the country, and her work and expertise have been featured by premier publications and websites, including Architectural Digest, Elle Decor, Vogue, and Domino. She regularly shares her design and lifestyle advice with TV audiences, including her most recent role on HGTV's internationally broadcast series, Property Brothers, Brother vs. Brother, and her recently debuted book, Marie Flanigan, The Beauty of Home. Welcome, Marie. Next panelist, I would like to introduce Jean Liu, principal of Jean Liu Design. The Dallas-based Jean Liu turned her love of design and antiques into a business in 2007. She draws inspiration from the world of fashion and her travels. She holds degrees from Georgetown and Harvard in subjects completely unrelated to design. She and her team pride themselves on creating modern, edited, comfortable, and inspired spaces. Jean Liu's designs have been featured in publications such as House Beautiful, Traditional Home, Town and Country, Architectural Digest, and the Wall Street Journal. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we also have David Cook, designer at Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio. David is a designer with the award-winning Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio. He also recently partnered with Meals on Wheels Atlanta as the lead on the renovation and remodel of its kitchen to help serve even more seniors in need. Welcome, David. So we'll start off with questions. First, I wanted to ask the panelists, how has your business shifted in the past few months? It's been such an unusual time. Are you seeing more clients virtually, or has the wide acceptance of video conferencing helped you expand your business to other places that might normally have been more difficult geographically?
Yeah. Marie, you want to go first?
Sure. Sorry, Jean.
No, it's okay.
I was just going to say that, yeah, I think, we've all been on so many Zoom calls to even count. And it's all stretched all of our knowledge and ability to communicate over these new platforms. And I think although it has been difficult, all of us are a little bit more comfortable with it now. And I think it's really opened up the design space. Yesterday I had a Zoom call with somebody in Singapore, and just our ability to work with all types of trades and clients all over the world is just incredible. And I think even clients are more comfortable with doing that, where it was a necessity for several months. Now it's so easy to knock out a conversation or something that could happen much more quickly and efficiently over a Zoom call, and divide up meetings that way.
Yeah,
I certainly will echo Marie's sentiment. I don't consider myself a very tech savvy person, but I think it speaks volumes when I find myself purchasing a ring light for calls, if that gives you any indication how many Zoom video calls we're doing a day. I think the other thing is our business has just exploded during this time. It was completely unexpected. I do find most of our clients are deciding that if they can't travel and they can't eat out, and they don't know if or when an end is in sight, they might as well be putting that money back into their homes. And in particular, I would say kitchens is a huge area right now where remodeling is happening. And we are still honestly going and working with trades at construction sites. We're being very careful, but it has not stopped from the very beginning.
I'll also second the same thing with the Zoom calls. We do quite a bit of work outside of Atlanta already. So the nature of a Zoom call and a FaceTime isn't a new concept for us. Some of us are getting more used to presenting that way. It's harder for clients to see materials and really get the idea of things without being in our showroom. But it is a nice place to start. But we also use it with our builders. We do job site walkthroughs. We do it with our installers. When an installer is in an out-of-town job, it really helps us quickly get to a solution or can see things in real time. But that's something that we've practiced for a long time. It's just now it's become company-wide. We're doing it with our installers, with our techs, with everyone in the on the team. So it's something that we do get a lot of complications, you know, in the initial call with the clients, because a lot of the clients aren't used to it. But once we get past that, everyone seems to like it because they can quickly get on a call, answer some questions, and then we can have multiple calls rather than save everything for a large meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some other unexpected surprises of 2020? Are there any trends emerging, especially when it comes to kitchens, that you're seeing?
I would say that my clients of late are trying to pack more functions into a kitchen area than before. So for example, not only would we have normally designed a bar area where casual dining can happen, we're actually now actively putting a desk where work can happen, separate of informal dining. And that's been tricky on some parts, but quite necessary, we're finding.
And as many people renovate kitchens in particular, what are the new rules when it comes to lead times, construction sites, client communications, and expectations? How has that shifted?
I think all the rules have gone out the window.
Yep, definitely.
We're all just trying to figure this out.
I was thinking it, but you said it.
I think the tricky part with trying to design around all of these aspects of 2020, one of our biggest issues right now is the lead times, of course, with product. Our vendors are backed up. So the expectation of the client, but also the material costs. The material costs are very high right now, especially with construction lumber. It's up 60% than it was 2 months ago. So we're trying to finagle that, especially on these projects where the design time goes, 6 to 8 months until the project has reached a point where we're actually breaking ground. Those unforeseen costs are really making things difficult when we're trying to implement certain budgets and certain restraints within that project. But the clients seem to be pretty resilient to it. They understand sometimes this has given them more time to focus on these projects. Yeah. They're using, their secondary homes more. So we're starting to focus on, multiple projects at one time with those clients. But so far our clients have been very understanding about, the lead times in the process. The budget always hurts, but we can't help that either.
David, to piggyback off of what you said, we have a project in the works that was starting construction before COVID really hit. And we were waiting on some product that we knew had a decent lead time. But when global logistics went into a tizzy because of COVID, what was a 6-week lead time turned into a 12 to 14 lead time. And so we actually had the insurance company that was had the builder's risk policy cancel it. And we had to go and find a new policy because of these unforeseen lead times on materials. And that is just the nature of what we're dealing with today.
Right. Wow. You mentioned some of the ways that people are reimagining their kitchens as workspaces or for virtual learning. What are some other things you're seeing, whether it's mud rooms or sanitation stations or touchless sinks? Are you seeing anything else like that emerge?
Go for it, Marie.
I think in general, I'm seeing a lot of defined spaces where, before it was the open floor plan reigned. I think people are realizing how much more function they need in their home, and their kids need to go to school, and 2 working parents, and maybe the grandparents are living with them now. So we're seeing a lot of floor plans closing where maybe a workstation was in the kitchen, they're moving it out and having more dedicated areas defined within the home. I'm also seeing people really caring about the materials they're living with and how their home can really be an aid to healthy living. Wipeable surfaces, the touchless faucets, and things to that nature.
Interesting.
We're definitely seeing mudrooms grow in size. I work with a set of clients, they're doctors, and they're in the process of building their house. And I think their mudroom might be larger than all of the secondary bedrooms. They have a place where they can literally walk in the side door, completely, take all of their work clothes off, wash their hands, or even put it straight into the washer and dryer. And I have to admit, I'm somewhat envious right now.
Well, and to that point, people are also really caring a lot about HVAC systems,
yes,
how that can clean the air and the different technologies that are now developing around killing bacteria in the air.
Yeah,
exactly.
Excellent. In terms of any projects you've executed or kitchens you've worked on in 2020, what have been some of the other challenges or hard lessons that you've learned along the way? You mentioned materials. Has anything else been a particular challenge?
I think for us, it's really just a waiting game, trying to get materials, trying to get clients who are spending quite a bit of money on whatever material it is, whether it be the countertop or their appliances, to know that it will, in the long run, be worth the wait unless they plan on moving out within 6 months of finishing their renovation.
Right.
So,
it's not as easy to move around these days for outdoor.
No, not really.
Yeah. Are there any new tools or innovations that you're using to problem solve? We talked about Zoom some, but any other technology uses that you're finding these days?
I think the focus now on technology in general, a lot of clients are intimidated by technology, so they tend to stay away from it. But now that they're home and they're forced to deal with Zoom calls and Zoom classrooms and all of that, that they're embracing a little bit more of the technology. And there are appliances that I think are really helping with this. People are very focused on sanitation now. So you've got dishwashers that have sanitation modes, and steam ovens are being used for certain types of sanitation. But also the shift towards technology where it's actually helping when they're working on a Zoom call. They're trying to take the Zoom call, but they're also trying to help their kids with their e-learning, and they're multitasking within the space. Some of these appliances really help assist in that. A sous vide, Wolf has a great drawer that is a vacuum seal drawer that you can also sous vide in it. And the concept is you can put your meal in there and let it cook until you're ready, because you can't overcook the meal at that point. So there's some technology that I think people were intimidated by before, but they're really going to start embracing it now that they have the time, they're there, and they're cooking a lot more. We're seeing a lot more clients actually interested in their kitchens rather than it just being pretty. So the focus on how we design it, how we zone the space, whether it's the butler's pantry, the mud room, and the kitchen, that seems to be more important now than ever, especially with the open floor plan. We've seen the open floor plan now in architecture for years, but now it's really taking the center stage because people want to be able to see everything that's happening in their space and multitask within that space.
Yeah. They're just using it. Go ahead, Marie.
Oh, I was just going to say, I totally agree with what David is saying. And I feel like anybody who was working on a project when this hit, I think one of the challenges we faced was, all of our perspective changed as to what a home is and what it should be. And I think that has been the challenge, is kind of readjusting. Suddenly everybody's building their pool. They're going to definitely think about buying a vacation home versus going to a hotel. And I personally have seen a lot of people wanting to integrate a lot of the kitchen appliances and a lot of the things in the kitchen to help them feel more homey, to hide all of the different appliances that you're seeing, because I totally agree with what David said about people are really getting into cooking, getting into being at home and really enjoying it.
Absolutely. So this is sort of a broad sweeping question, but where do you see design going in 2021? There've been so many learnings and advancements, like we said, through Zoom conferencing and other things this year, but how do you see the year ahead playing out in terms of kitchen design in particular?
After 2020, who knows?
Yeah. I just want to make it through 2020.
I think we're going to see a lot more people focused on their kitchens and really thinking about how they're going to use it. Outdoor kitchens, we're seeing a lot more people interested in cooking outdoors, especially right now, since a majority of COVID has been spent through spring and summer. People are enjoying the outdoors more. So these spaces are starting to interact more with the main kitchen. And I think that people are thinking about that, and really those ancillary spaces, the mud room, the butler's pantry, the scullery, those rooms that surround the kitchen that become more of a support for the kitchen. And people are really focusing on the function rather than just, the materials, which the materials are very important, especially when you're looking at coppers and brass and things that are already antimicrobial. But they're really starting to think of how they actually will use it, because they're going to start using it more.
We actually have a project in the works where it happened before COVID, but I'm starting to see more of it. We are looking at one that's in the drawings phase right now, but the rise of the prep kitchen or a scullery is really coming back. I don't know if it ever went away, David, in your world, but it seemed like for a while we were working on these projects where we were trying to compact a lot of function into a kitchen. But now I feel like my clients are now carving out a specific space where, the actual dirty work, the ugly things you don't want to see in a kitchen is happening behind the scenes, but they still want to hold on to this open floor concept. So the pretty part of the kitchen is still facing the living room, and it's not really being used as heavily, but it's almost like having back-to-back kitchens now. It's interesting. Yeah. We're buying 4 ovens as opposed to 2 before. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that as well, where we don't want to see the microwave on the countertop. Right. Never did, but now we just put it back in the back kitchen, and kind of creating those very functional spaces. I also think we're going to see an uptick in multi-generational living, because now all of us are working from home, or several of us. And, I think the community aspect people miss a lot. And we're seeing people kind of moving back in with family members, which you see very often in other cultures, and bringing that to the American culture.
Yep.
Yeah. And the kitchen remaining the heart of the home as it's always been, but even more so perhaps. Great. We're going to start taking questions from the audience. So I just wanted to remind everybody to use the Q&A function on this. So our first question is for the panelists is, do you clean or decorate more than usual the space when you have a Zoom meeting? Do you tidy up and style it first?
I can't tell you how many conversations I've had about building a new home and where they're going to take their Zoom call, and where the natural light's going to hit them on their face, or their, bright thing that everybody's ordering, and what the background is going to be. That is a new conversation that is a very real part of designing studies, for sure.
Great point. Yeah.
I can't say that I've actually had full-blown conversations with clients about where Zoom happens, but personally, I did tidy up this area about 15 minutes before the call. And I've decided throughout COVID that this is probably not necessarily the prettiest place, but it is the quietest place for me to have conversations like this. So.
And speaking of backgrounds, you guys all have such gorgeous backgrounds. Someone just submitted a question, Marie. They want you to describe the kitchen that you're in. Is this a project of yours or your own personal kitchen?
This is a project of ours that we recently finished, and I can give you a little tour. One of my favorite parts about this kitchen is that we did integrate the hood so much, and then we brought in these more metal clad islands. And I feel like that's a trend we're seeing a lot in kitchens, is either integrating appliances completely or choosing appliances that can be used as like a display or a showcase.
Right. How about everybody else? Anything else in your background you'd like to show off, other panelists?
This is part of our showroom. This is a Francois hood, and you cannot see it, but there is a teal Lac Renew underneath that, a Chateau range. And then this is some more of our, over to the side here is another kitchen vignette of ours, but this is right in the front of our showroom.
I am sitting in I'm just sitting in a converted garage where we are still working from home. And this was actually finished out a few years ago. And I'm just sitting behind a large oil painting by a local artist. And it's actually just served as a pretty nice backdrop, no matter what the Zoom topic is about today or of the day.
Yeah,
So,
art has taken on new significance recently, for
yes.
sure, as the Zoom background.
Yes, for sure.
Tell me a little bit about terms, in terms of material trends. What are you guys seeing? Are you seeing any new trends in terms of finishes or materials?
I mean, definitely, David touched on the antimicrobial metals and faucets and sinks and wipeable surfaces. I think people have to be very careful of harsh chemicals that people are using to get rid of bacteria on surfaces. So I think we have a whole new perspective of the types of materials that we're able to use.
Are there certain materials or trends that you're seeing that are really on their way out?
Marble.
Marble?
Calcutta marble. I don't know.
One of our questions too, what's your opinion on using marble versus other countertops?
For us, it's really a regional thing. It depends on where you are. Some of our projects, especially ones here in Atlanta, we still see a great deal of white marble. To me, it's about, clients are very scared to use marble because they're scared of the maintenance and the etching. And to me, it's a luxury item. So you do have to understand that you have an item that you have to take care of. But, depending on where it is, South Florida, our projects in New York, we're seeing a lot more of the man-made products, the quartz materials and things like that. So it really, to me, depends regionally. If you come through our showroom, you're going to see quartzite, which is extremely popular because of its durability and its styling. You're going to see white marble. You're going to see quartzite. You're going to see quartz. You're going to see a lot of different materials, and some of that is based off of where the clients are coming in from. If they're coming in from the Northeast, things tend to trend a little bit different than they do in South Florida. So white marble is still really popular here, maybe not everywhere else though. So
I mean, I would say to David, we work with a lot of young families right now, and durability and spills and porous surfaces, or non-porous surfaces, I should say, are very popular. And so for that reason, we are using a lot more synthetic materials.
Well, and to anybody who really wants to use a marble, and right now we're seeing a lot of the very heavily veined marbles that make a dramatic statement. I often tell them just to have the fabricator hone the marble, because that hides so many of the etches that can occur, because it's really the reflection that shows off those etches. And another way you can integrate it into your kitchen is using it maybe just on the island or just on the perimeter. You have a more durable surface to do some of the more utilitarian work.
Yeah, I'm getting lots of questions about if the white kitchen is still trending. Is the white kitchen still in?
I personally think it will always be in. I think it's going to be a classic that will never, ever go away. It's consistent, it's comfortable, it has longevity, and people are not scared to really stray away from the white. It will always be resellable, and you can always blend things into it. You could do a small bar area or an island in a different wood or a different material that's less committal. And the white, though, to me is always going to be the #1 most classic design for a kitchen, whether it's contemporary, traditional, transitional, whatever it is. I think it's always going to hold a place in design.
What about?
I don't think we. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to.
You first.
I was going to ask about, we're also getting several questions about cabinets and color. Are you guys, and this plays into the white kitchen question as well, if you want to answer that, but are two-tone cabinets trending, or do you use that as a counterpoint to the white kitchen, or what are your thoughts on that, on cabinet color?
We're moving away from painting cabinets white. I think, you know, the white kitchens and the cabinet colors go hand in hand. I think even if we're asked to do a white kitchen, the island is most likely some kind of contrasting color, just to give it some depth and interest.
Yeah, and I agree that white will always kind of have a timeless classic place. We are experimenting with the two-tone cabinets. I happen to be doing it in a kitchen right now, but I also do it a lot in closets just to kind of have some fun with paint in a really inexpensive way. But I'm also seeing and doing a lot of stained kitchens. I'm just bringing in the warmth of the natural wood and pairing that with a painted color as well.
To go along with what Maria's saying, one of the things that we're seeing one of our biggest trends in is the bleached wood. So the bleached walnuts, the bleached butternuts, bleached cherry that we're staining back to different colors. Because I think people really do want to get back to that natural feel and the natural graining of wood, but they don't necessarily just want a heavy stain. So to your point, Marie, we're doing the same thing, especially with riff cuts and different woods that give you a subtle feel, but still has more of a transitional feel to it.
Yeah, well, and I feel like just talking about cabinet styles, I love using the riff cut on like more of a flat panel or more of a contemporary style kitchen. And I'm seeing a lot of the rebirth of the raised panel, especially with a lot of the Belgian influence we're seeing in design. Pairing a raised panel with something more contemporary is a beautiful look. Or even just the slight bead around the flat panel,
yes,
adding in that touch of interest. We're doing a lot of that.
Yeah, this is a great question that we had from a few people. If someone's about to gut a kitchen or, you know, start a full remodel, what are some of the top tips that you recommend?
I think this piece of advice goes for any room in your house, but particularly kitchens, since it's so heavily used. Design for the 80% of the time of the way you're going to live. Don't design for the 20% of the time where you may have company or you may be entertaining. I feel like that's been a fail-proof piece of advice I'd like to try and impart on clients all the time. And be honest about what that room needs to do for you and your family day to day in terms of function.
Yeah, absolutely. Marie?
I always tell people, even if you're not working with a designer, take the time to draw it out, even if it's on graph paper, because seeing a room from a bird's eye view helps you kind of step outside of the fact that you've lived there for 5 years, or you know, just the experience of walking around a three-dimensional space. But by drawing it out and discovering, oh, look, there's a closet right on the back side of the pantry. I want a bigger pantry. You know, ways that you can really transform a space to add function. Also to draw in the details of the appliances you want ahead of time. It just really opens up new possibilities for what you could do.
Great.
My first step with a client is to discuss appliances. I think it's the most important because we need to know, you know, do you want wall ovens? Do you like a range? And I don't necessarily mean the brand, but more about the function and the features. So many clients I talk to about the steam oven because it has so many functions to it. And they just kind of look at me like, all right, well, I don't steam vegetables a ton, but there's so many other aspects of that oven and the things that you can do with it. So to me, that is the most pivotal part. Let's start here and then build your kitchen from what you need and how you function. A lot of clients will say, well, I don't cook, so I don't really care about the appliances. But I find that every person that uses a kitchen has an opinion about a refrigerator because everyone is going to use that appliance and they don't realize that they're using it more than they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is the first goal. And to your point, Marie, you know, laying it out and really seeing, they say, well, this is how I've always done it. Well, I get that, but I'm showing you 20 different ways that you could do it better and kind of coaching them in the direction that they really should be using the space. And that I think that's kind of part of our job is to tell them this is how you've done it, but this is a better way that you can do it more efficiently.
Yeah, and not to be afraid to mix appliances also, like taking a Thermador Wolf and mixing it with the La Cornue or the LeConte, the real kind of show pieces compared to the very functional integrated items. I think we're seeing a lot more mixing of the products now.
I think we are too. I think there was once upon a time where clients felt like they had to buy the suite of appliances. You know, God forbid they not have the matching microwave to their range. But I think that we feel like has gone by the wayside. And it's really about what's functioning for them and what features each brand may be promoting.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we haven't talked about is flooring in terms of flooring trends. Are you seeing any particular material trends there?
As far as finish goes, I think we're still trending back towards the lighter surfaces, the lighter floors. You know, the lighter oaks that really allow us to not see everything on the floor. For a while, we went heavier and darker. Now I think we're trending back away from that. But then again, it also depends on the project. I mean, some of these projects have stone floors, they have tile floors, or you know, a reclaimed rustic piece. I have a project right now that I'm working on where the floors are reclaimed rustic floors, so everything around the kitchen is being based off that. The client wants a bleached cabinet, but we have to find the right wood that's going to bleach to the right tones to tie in with that floor. So sometimes the floor plays a bigger role than we assume it does.
Yeah, absolutely. What about cabinet hardware? Are you seeing a lot of brass or, you know, unfinished materials for cabinet hardware?
We're working with a lot of living finishes. And I think that if we can get our clients to do it, it's absolutely something that they, you know, may pay a little more on the front end, but they not always come back and say they feel like it was worth it. Because let's be honest, I feel like hardware for us is like jewelry for a kitchen, but it's not something that we necessarily talk about until later in the project, and everyone's kind of getting, you know, construction cost fatigue, but it is pretty important. And I do see brass being with us for a while. I would have thought that it would have waned by now, but we're still seeing it going strong here.
I love that you brought up the living finishes, because I think that I love using living finishes so much. And I have found that people are either all for it or they're all against it. And you know, you really have to be ready to get, first of all, if it's like an unlacquered brass, you get the faucet when it's bright and shiny, looks like 70s a little bit. Sometimes we even have the contractors lay them outside and let the rain start to age them. Yeah. But it's almost like letting your hair grow out. You got to go through the ugly phase before you get to the beautiful phase.
I'm living it right now, Marie.
Right. So I think if people have the tolerance for that, it's such a beautiful finish, but it's definitely something that we take them through carefully, because I've had many clients who just do not have the tolerance for it and they want it to be perfect all the time.
Yep.
And as far as cabinet hardware, I'm seeing a lot of like integrated pulls where it's like a finger pull integrated into the door, or a lot of just finger holes are really trending right now. But we always love to mix metals in many spaces, including the kitchen.
And I think that speaks to the longevity of the brass. I mean, there's so many different brass with antique, unlacquered. There's many different types of lacquered finishes with brass. So I think that's why we're seeing it trend longer, is because you can mix and match it and it kind of blends all together, and it makes it more interesting than just one finish throughout your whole house, like the contractor brass that we all know from the 90s.
Absolutely. This is a little bit difficult of a question, maybe too hard to answer, but we get a lot of questions about overall cost. I know it's such a wide range, once again, based on materials and appliances, but what's the ballpark that you give for a range to really fully renovate a kitchen?
I don't know that I could answer that. I think it totally depends on the scope, the size of the kitchen, you know, who the contractor is.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dean.
No, go for it.
To speak more to that point indirectly, not avoid your question, but I find that most clients, when they come to me, they don't know what their budget is. So I never really ask that question because they either don't know it or they're not going to tell me the truth. So what I usually do is I start again with that appliance conversation, and they say, well, we're thinking we want to spend around $100,000. Okay, well, the appliances that you've explained to me are $45,000. So from there, that only leaves us this much room to do construction, cabinetry, flooring, tile, hardware. So then it really starts to put them into perspective. So I kind of let them run course on which direction we're going to go with that budget. So it is kind of hard to, yes, we can walk into a project and say, I think this is going to be about this much for your total renovation. But it really depends on a lot of things. It depends on materials and the scope and the size and are we moving things? Or are we just replacing things? So it's kind of a very tough question to answer.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of people have come in watching renovating shows and stuff on TV where those shows have sponsors. And I do believe that they're probably honest about their budgets, but they're not factoring in the fact that they got so much of it for free.
Right.
So I think people sometimes come in with unrealistic expectations. So it's really about finding out the priorities of the client. Is it going to be $100 a square foot? Is it going to be $400 a square foot? And trying to make selections that fit those priorities.
I mean, Phoebe, I would say though, for what it's worth, I find that my clients, if we were going to rank priorities in terms of spending by room in the house, the kitchen's probably number 1 or number 2.
For sure.
So, in my projects, at least.
Well, and definitely even in getting the value back out of your house. Yeah. That's been proven.
Now more than ever, I'm sure. But in terms of appliance function, what do you see as really essential for new kitchens these days? Appliance priorities. Are there any new appliances that you're really outfitting new projects with?
I still go back to the steam oven. I think it's one of the best products on the market. Multiple brands have them. They do more than just steam. They reheat food well. So a lot of people now are in the trend of either purchasing meals, that are ready to eat from like Freshly or someone like that, or they're meal prepping. So they're prepping their entire week on Sunday for the entire week. Or even into the generation where they are downsizing to where it's just 2 people in the home and they're reheating a lot of meals and eating a lot of leftovers. The reheat function of a steam oven to me is fantastic. And a lot of different brands are integrating those differently. Decor, Thermador, they have it, and LG have it all built right into the oven. So it allows us a little bit more flexibility with design. So that to me is still one of the most important appliances, as well as refrigeration, because I think the refrigerator can be broken apart and used in different areas rather than how we all grew up with one refrigerator and everything was in it. Now we're pulling them apart and we're doing, a dairy drawer or a beverage drawer, a beverage center just for kids so they don't have to be in and out of the main fridge. So those to me are the most 2 important aspects of how we're laying out the kitchen.
I don't know how many beverage refrigerators we've spec'd in the last year, but it's really interesting to me because when we grew up, when we wanted a beverage, it was just in the refrigerator, but now it's a whole separate unit.
Yeah.
So I find that to be one of the new things we're seeing. Not new, but it is definitely on the rise for us.
Becoming standard. Yeah.
Well, and coffee too is such a dedicated space nowadays. And the built-in coffee makers are a huge appliance people are using.
Yeah. Any tips for how to integrate an open floor plan that has both a kitchen and a family room, just so it looks more cohesive and not choppy? What do you recommend for that?
We had a project recently where we literally integrated the breakfast seating off of the front of the island. It was actually a move that we made because the pretty views of the house happened to be right in front of the island. But it was a small space, it was long, it was linear, and we felt like because of the way the clients lived, it made a lot of sense to do that. And so we were pretty pleased with the end product. So we basically, like I said, my kitchen stories are about contraction and expansion. We turned an island into a seating area pretty quickly. That was Sorry, there's a bug flying around in here.
I did a recent project last summer where it was a bungalow style house and the client had a water leak, which is what led to the renovation. But they put a pool on the back of their house and their small kitchen didn't function well. So we actually took the entire floor plan and started over. I moved the kitchen to the back of the house where a guest room was. And in that space, the kitchen and the living room were all one area. But I created a scullery behind the hood wall. And in that space is now where they have their bar area, their oven area, a whole nother separate sink and dishwasher. So that becomes more of that dirty kitchen that you were talking about earlier, Jean, where they can do everything back there. And then only thing in the main kitchen is a second sink, the main sink, refrigerator, freezer, some dish storage, and then the main range. So it really becomes a dual function space. And it makes the kitchen a little bit cleaner and not overwhelmed with appliances and cabinetry. So the bulk of that was behind that secondary wall.
Yeah.
I find that my clients are using, the ones with the scullery kitchen or the prep kitchen, they're then therefore rendering the kitchen that faces the living room for coffee making and juicing. It's definitely not getting used anywhere nearly the way that the prep kitchen's being.
That was a question that came through earlier. Do you find that clients are still designing for entertaining optimistically? Like they may not be entertaining right now, but they're looking down the road towards the future that they still plan on, whether it's a catering kitchen or something like that?
I think that clients now are really focusing on, they're taking this time to pause and really plan these renovations. With our lead times, a lot of our cabinetry, we're not able to deliver in time for holidays and getting ready for that. So we're really pausing. I'm telling my clients, let's really take the next, 4 or 5 months to plan the space and get it exactly the way we want it with renderings and really think through all this and products. And we'll order at the end of the year so that way we're ready. And I think that it kind of gives them a little hope. It gives them a little optimism towards the next year. But they can also take the time now while they have it to sit down and really think through the way they're using it. And now is a great time because they are really sitting down and using their spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. What about backsplash trends? That's something we haven't talked about. Any material trends there or color trends you're seeing?
I think for a while, many of our projects were with clients who wanted to see whatever stone became the countertop run up to be the same as the backsplash. But we're starting to move away from that because I think we're almost looking at it today and going, I've missed an opportunity to bring in another element that is not competing but complementary that could make the kitchen a little bit more unique than before. So we're using now more tile layouts, just, even maybe a piece of stainless steel, just to give it some differentiation between what's going on with counters and the cabinets.
What programs do you guys predominantly use for renderings? That was a question that the audience had.
Sorry, I feel like I'm hoarding this conversation. We've hand drawn some kitchens for clients who really needed to see it, but mainly we work in CAD and in Revit these days.
Same, Marie and David?
Yeah, we work in CAD, and lately we've been using SketchUp with like a V-Ray plugin.
We do AutoCAD for most of our development, and then we render in 3ds Max with V-Ray.
This is another sort of appliance question. What are the disadvantages of range versus wall ovens, and why is it so hard to find a dual fuel with a gas griddle? Seems like it's a challenge.
I think the issue with the dual fuel and the gas griddle is efficiency and control of the heat on that element. The biggest conversation I have when we're talking appliances, a lot of clients are getting to the point where they're downsizing. This is the house they're going to be in for a while, and they don't want to deal with the range as far as bending over and having to access the range. So that's where we see the trend for the wall oven. Wall ovens always are difficult for design because if you do a standard stack of a double oven, you have a hard time with balance sometimes. If we can do side by side, it's even better. And then some clients just love the look of the industrial range with the dual fuel or the all gas. They like that whole look, so they're okay with sacrificing that. And earlier to your point, Jean, about the multiple ovens, maybe it's a range in the kitchen and steam ovens in the scullery, or another set of double ovens for catering or overflow for holiday. So we're seeing a lot more of that broken up, and we can kind of get everything they want in one space.
For sure.
Yeah, that was a question I had about, the triangle versus zones and, ovens in different areas. What are your thoughts on plotting that? Do you really try and keep a triangle or zone it out?
We don't approach the triangle at all. The triangle was great when we had one dishwasher, one sink, one refrigerator. So a zone makes more sense because I can, all of the cabinetry in this area is for your prepping, your knives, your cutting boards, your mixing bowls. This area is for cooking. This area is for cleaning. This area is for secondary cleaning. This area is where I want my guests to go while I'm doing all of that. You need to tell your guests where they're supposed to go. So to me, the zones are more important, especially in a small space because they start overlapping. But I typically stay away from the triangle. The basic triangle, the range to the main fridge, maybe that makes more sense. But in general, we have multiple dishwashers, multiple refrigerators, multiple sinks. So the triangle kind of loses its effect.
I think especially now that we're breaking out appliances with such specific functionality, we're more looking at kitchens functioning in zones rather than the, traditional triangle as before.
Yeah. Here's a specific question. In a period house, 1860, better to go traditional or modern? For higher ceilings, 11 to 12 feet-ish, how far up should you go with the cabinetry?
I think that depends on how the rest of the house is going to go. I think they could go either way. If you're going to take the whole house, have it be intentionally modern and keep the architecture old, but I think I need more information.
Yeah. So there's no hard and fast rule, I guess, is really the answer.
That's the beauty of design.
I think the first question I would ask is how long are they going to keep the house? Is there resale potential? I did a project in South Alabama this year with an 1870s house, and we went completely white lacquer on all of the kitchen cabinets and passed through and everything, but we put it on a more transitional door. So it blended the crown and the architecture of the 1800s house with what she wanted as a really up-to-date finish.
Yeah. What advice do you have for clients interfering with contractors during construction? I'm sure you have some stories.
I just would say, obviously everybody has experienced contractor delays. We generally try to advise clients to be very diligent in interviewing their contractors, and on the front end, don't just go for the cheapest contractor you got the bid from. But if you have signed off and you feel like you've done your due diligence, we try not to push our contractors because we do feel like when they're under time pressure, corners start getting cut, corners that you may not see or experience until they're long gone. So it is one of these things where the best advice is to stay out of their way and let them do their jobs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we found the best projects often are the ones where people hire an incredible team, somebody who came highly referred, and then allow them to be the professionals, allow all of us to kind of be the experts and guide you through the process.
Absolutely. Are you getting more clients asking for smart home tech in projects, whether it's integrated sound or other smart devices?
Absolutely.
I would say we're kind of the opposite. We kind of went through the smart home phase where everybody wanted to create all these smart things within their home. But now I've seen like a pullback where somebody doesn't want to have to find an iPad to turn something on. They want to go to the wall and turn it on and turn it off. So I feel like we've kind of had a pendulum swing where we want the efficiency of the systems, like the Lutron systems and all of the smart functions, without the complication. So finding that perfect balance.
I absolutely agree with what Marie's saying. That's the advice we try to give clients. You know, so you want a smart home, you want home automation, but tell me what that really means to you. What do you want your home and the devices around it to be able to do? Because and it is a conversation we're having more often earlier on in the project than ever before. But I find that my clients sometimes have learned the hard way that they've paid a lot of money on the front end only to find out that the automation system is smarter than they are or than how they want to live. I have one client who can't figure out how to turn off one bulb in the courtyard. It's LED, and the people that did the automation are no longer around. And it is now the running joke that they're literally just waiting for the bulb to burn out. But they've been over a year and they still figure out how to turn it off. So.
And these systems are becoming more and more accessible to everyone. So before, where you had to spend $300,000 on these crazy, incredible systems, now everybody can, you know, get an off-the-shelf system to add this type of technology to all of our homes.
Yeah.
And to that point as well, if you have a guest that's staying in your home and they can't figure out how to turn it on or off, they're going to start hitting buttons, and next thing you know, your whole system's reset and no one knows how to control it. So it is, you kind of have to do a happy medium. This button will turn everything on and off. So to me, the integrated features of technology is more about how to set everything and then let the switch still be what controls it.
Yeah. What do you find are the best ways to hide what would be countertop appliances, or what are some of the ways that you're hiding those these days?
I mean, there's so many tools out there, like the mixer lift, like integrating the paper towels into the cabinets. And where before it was like you had to choose between site-built cabinets and prefabricated, today we're seeing a lot of people offering the prefabricated interiors that we're integrating with site-built cabinets. So right now we're kind of getting the best of both worlds, being able to completely customize the outside of the cabinet while still getting all of that good accessory, and for example, like metal interiors, glass sides, the light up drawers, those types of things that really make a difference, that site built couldn't provide before. Now we're able to integrate the two.
Right. This circling back to, and I know we're nearing the end of our time, but back to budget. If we're getting a lot of questions about older kitchens that maybe don't have the full budget to do a full renovation, what would be some priority upgrades that you would recommend for those older kitchens?
I would say think about a focal point making a big impact. Oftentimes that is the hood and the range and kind of creating a focus in the kitchen while not sacrificing the function. So kind of think about big picture and work down from there. Come up with all of your priorities and see what's going to create the biggest value in the end, whether it's the appliances, the finishes, or the layout.
Yeah, absolutely. David, do you have any thoughts? Let you each answer this one if you.
Oh, the upgrades. Yeah. Definitely countertops is an easy way to fix it. The problem that I see with appliances is sometimes you have to have exactly what's going back. And
exactly
most of the time,
same size.
Clients come in and they say, well, I'd really like a farm sink. Well, that's rebuilding that cabinet. I really want a different type of refrigerator, but yours is 25 years old. So we're not going to find one to fit that space the same way. So if you're not replacing the cabinetry, it's tough to upgrade. And I typically suggest those as temporary upgrades because you're not getting all the function that you can out of the cabinetry.
Yeah. I think maybe if you are talking about a kitchen that's 15 to 20 years old and you're looking for a big change, at least in appearance, knowing the complexities that may go along with swapping out appliances, we often advise a client to resurface whatever they're seeing. So a different, painting the cabinets, changing the countertops, those feel like more doable upgrades. Even though I do agree with David, I think they have to know going into it, it's somewhat temporary.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for their time. This was so much helpful information and such a wealth of knowledge. So I really appreciate everybody taking the time. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you to our sponsors and to ADAC and Design Gallery. We're so grateful to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Guys, thank you.